Hello there, welcome to my show. COVID-19 update by Heerak for October 12th, 2020. Um, it is Columbus Day, so happy Columbus Day. As you know, Christopher Columbus discovered the New World in uh, 1492. Over 500 years ago. And it's new world for the Europeans, obviously. We Asians have crossed over when the continents were kind of linked and settled this area. Um, so Native Americans look Asian, right? Because I guess we're distant cousins. As you know, I'm from Korea. My name is Heerak Christian Kim, independent candidate for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District. Um, yeah, so I'm happy to be coming to you from Arlington, Virginia, with helpful information for you and your family. Um, you know, I wanted to share some photos of myself. Actually, I'm not in any of the photos, but it's my group, Rav Wallenberg, fellows or scholars at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. There were 10 of us who were chosen in a nationwide competition in the United States um, to represent the United States in Israel for their program, which is called Raoul Wallenberg Scholars uh, in Human Rights and Democracy. So, I've had a long interest in human rights and democracy. And so I applied for this program. I represented UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles. And, we had some great people there. You see right below me, Hillary Coyne. She didn't go to UCLA, but she's wearing my shirt, not my shirt, but like UCLA shirt. Um, and she actually represented Harvard, and she went to Georgetown Law School after Israel. And she's now actually an adjunct professor at Georgetown Law School, or what Georgetown University calls Georgetown Law Center, same as Georgetown Law School. And so she's a big shot lawyer in DC area. And next to Hillary, you see in the next photo over, you have Heather. Her father is a big shot like judge in Georgia, and she represented Dartmouth. Behind Heather is Jared Genzer, who represented Cornell University, and he's from Maryland. And then behind Hillary Clinton, you see Sorna. He represented University of Chicago, where he did his bachelor's and master's in 4 years. Brilliant guy. His father immigrated from India, not India, Iran. And his father was a big shot general, I guess, in Iran, and then immigrated. And next to Sorna is Nami Ando. Nami represented Swarthmore College in Pennsylvania. She's from Japan, Japanese citizen. And I took them on a tour of Hezekiah's tunnel, where water flowed, and you can read about Hezekiah's tunnel in the Old Testament. So it goes way back, thousands of years back. It existed for thousands of years. And so you see Jared Genzer there and Hillary Coyne right behind them. And water did come up to that high, and thank God it wasn't raining. But, Hezekiah Tunnel is like, it transports water, it carried water into city of David during the Davidic monarchy era. I thought it'd be fun to take a tour, and I'm glad I did, because most people don't go on a tour of Hezekiah's Tunnel when they go to Jerusalem, or Israel. Unless you have like fun guy like Heerak Christian Kim, independent candidate for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District, Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, parts of Fairfax County are part of Virginia's 8th District. Unless you have a fun guy like me, Heerak Christian Kim, you're not going to get to see these historical stuff, you know, tourists don't generally go to see that, you know. Um, I mean, there could be liability issues because the water does come up that high. You're claustrophobic. Can you imagine? I look at the fear in Jared's face. He's a nice guy. He wants to be the first Jewish president of the United States. You know, we had like overachievers in this program, right? Um, and Jared went to Cornell Law School. He's a big shot lawyer in the DC area as well. And next to that, you see like the sense of relief by Jared, Hillary, and Heather, you know, when the water receded and they're about to come out. And photo right next to me, you see like Hillary's walking up, being helped up. Jared's there and Heather. And we had some Arabic boys, Palestinian boys in the area who were kind of nice and they kind of helped us out a little bit. Um, and you see shawarma, that's my favorite food in Israel. You put shawarma in pita bread. Shawarma is made up of like lamb and like beef and chicken, you know, but mostly lamb. Um, and sometimes it's 100% lamb. And so Nami's standing in front of that. You see Hillary there. Yeah, so we had great time in Israel, you know, and yeah, I mean, once COVID-19 is done, I want to like reconnect with everybody in there. Yeah, you know, Hillary's in this area, you know, Jared Genzer's in this area. Hillary Coyne, I guess she's hyphenated after marrying her boyfriend from Harvard. Um, so Hillary Coyne Brill, and yeah, a lot of people. Corey Veld was assistant director of Russian studies at School of Foreign Service, and then he was promoted and went to George Washington University to be director of Russian studies. So yeah, like overachievers. And as you know, I'm an overachiever. I'm an expert of Jewish studies, and I am now a nurse, registered nurse in Virginia. And I'm a licensed teacher in the state of Virginia as well, professional licensed teacher, licensed to teach basically every subject: math, science, social studies, English, special education. I'm licensed in Washington, D.C., public Washington, D.C. schools, District of Columbia. I'm a reading specialist in District of Columbia. Yeah, I'm licensed teacher in South Carolina, where Lindsey Graham is running. So if you're in South Carolina, vote for Lindsey Graham. And Tennessee, I'm licensed teacher in Alabama. And the first day I teach in Georgia, I will be professional licensed. I have that. For some reason, Georgia has these technicalities that other states don't have. So you have to actually physically teach at least one day to get the actual license. But, you know, basically it is like a teacher's license. So yeah, so I'm like the Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century. I'm a licensed teacher in many states. My registered nurse license in Virginia is multi-state, so I could practice as a registered nurse in like over 30 states. I'm also separately licensed in District of Columbia, because District of Columbia is like its own island. It doesn't participate in the multi-state license. Neither does California, neither does Pennsylvania, so you have to get separate RN license. Yeah, so yeah, so like we're overachievers, you know, and yeah, we all really worked really nicely as a team. John Bartlett isn't there. He's a freeholder in Passaic County in New Jersey. He went to Brown University, was the editor-in-chief of the Brown Daily Herald, went to Harvard Law School. So he has this like law firm in New York. A lot of lawyers came out of this firm. I guess when you have, you know, human rights and democracy issues, you know, you're gonna have lawyers, right? Yeah, I'm an expert in Jewish history and Jewish law. So I guess, you know, in a way, I'm kind of a Jewish expert in law. So a scholar though, you know. Yeah, so we had like 309 COVID-19 deaths. It hasn't really been exactly 24 hours, but yeah, so I'm sure it's gonna, you know, numbers are gonna flow in later today. It's a little bit earlier in the day today. It's like midday. So numbers may trickle in later. You know, I mean, it was Sunday yesterday. You know, Mondays, you know how it is. Everybody's kind of slow motion. So numbers will probably flow in several hours later today. But yeah, so we have So, I'm sure it's like 1,000 deaths, Um, we have so 214,882 deaths today, as of today on record. And then we have confirmed cases of 7,772,099 cases. And, we're not alone. There are countries all over the world in different continents which have spiking death rates. And India is one of them. And India, it had less than 1,000 deaths like in April. And then it's just started spiking in the summer. So India has 7,120,538 cases and 109,150 deaths so far. The percentage is 2%, but it's kind of empty because it could go up to 10%, it could go up to 20%, and it can happen to America as well. So I just wanted to highlight that point that in flu season, it's not going to be the same like 3% death rate in America. It's going to be like maybe 10%, 15%, 20%. So if you have 1 million people getting COVID, you may have like 100,000 die from it. So winter flu season is different in terms of death rate. The rate of death will go up significantly. It's not like summer where rate of death is lower. Bangladesh is number 2. And look at the difference between India and Bangladesh. So even in the same continent, even the same general area, like South Asia, Southeast Asia, you can have discrepancies. It could be due to your race, your DNA. It could be based on what you eat. It could be based on your social customs and practices, how you socialize with each other. So it could be many different factors. Unfortunately, COVID-19 is very new. It started like November 2019 in China. And that's why President Trump calls it a Chinese virus or China virus or Wuhan virus, because Wuhan is a province in China. So people are studying this COVID-19 and people don't really know what it is, really. People are calling it respiratory virus, and that's the functional term, but it's so much more than that. It's like saying, Heerak Christian Kim is a Jewish historian. I'm just so much more than that. I'm not just a Jewish historian. Yes, I am a Jewish historian. I'm a certified expert of Jewish history, Jewish law. I belong to Jewish expert associations like Association for Jewish Studies, AJS, which is a Jewish-run professional association of Jewish studies. And then I belong to Christian-run association of experts, professional organization of Jewish studies. There's a lot of Christian priests, Catholic priests, Orthodox priests, Protestant clergy. A lot of them do Jewish studies. So there are like Christian organizations, professional organizations for Jewish studies. Most of the original documentation before the discovery of Dead Sea Scrolls were in Vatican Library, So, and original sources matter. So, I'm a certified expert of Jewish history, but it's like saying Heerak is a Jewish studies expert, which I am. But I'm so much more than that. I'm a professionally licensed teacher. You know how many exams and how many hoops you have to jump through to become a professionally licensed teacher? Very hard, very, very hard. I got my professional teacher training at Virginia Union University, which is a historically Black colleges and universities, HBCU in Richmond, Virginia. And because of my brilliance in education, I was accepted to the Doctor of Education program at Virginia State University for education, leadership and administration, and I have 4.0 GPA at Virginia State University in the Doctor of Education program there. And Virginia State University is a state university in Virginia, unlike Virginia Union University, which is private. But Virginia State University is also historically Black colleges and universities, HBCU. And so, I have strong affiliation with 2 Black universities in Virginia. Yeah, perhaps the 2 biggest Black universities in Virginia. So, I know a lot of Black leaders in Virginia. Black leaders like me, they know me, they want to work with me, So, many of my classes, I was like the only non-Black person there. in my cohort for Doctor of Education at Virginia State University. I'm the only non-Black person. Yes. But, I feel very comfortable with Black people, so there's no problem. Everybody likes me, you know. Yeah, and they're all like major leaders in education in Virginia, because all of my core members are Black and they're leaders, and they hold administration positions like as dean in colleges, universities, and they want to be president. That's why they're getting this doctorate, presidents of colleges. And they're like superintendents of school systems or principals who want to become superintendents, because you could be superintendent without a doctorate, but some people want to get the title. So yeah, like DCPS, District of Columbia Public Schools, superintendent is Dr. Furby. So he has a doctorate. But you don't have to have a doctorate to be a superintendent. Many superintendents don't have a doctorate. Yeah. Philippines is number 3, and it's disturbing because the death rate is climbing, and cases are climbing. So 342,816 cases and 2% death rate, 6,332 deaths. Yes. We don't know if Philippines will become like India. India had like less than 1,000 deaths, in April, but look at the death now. So Philippines could become like that, unfortunately. So, I would worry if I am in Philippines with 2% death rate, that could go up. Indonesia, you have to worry more than Philippines, although cases are lower, the death rate is higher. So this is what's going to happen in the flu season in America. It's not going to be 3% of the people getting COVID dying. It's going to be like more like 10%, 15%, 20%. So even if fewer people get infected, more people will die. So Indonesia has 336,716 cases, 4% death rate, 11,935 people have died in Indonesia. And Indonesia had less than 1,002 several months ago. Now look at this. I mean, Mexico had less than 1,000. So did Brazil a few months ago. Look how big their death rate is, and I talked about that in yesterday's show. So if you want to look at the death rate in Latin America, just watch my show from yesterday on my YouTube channel, Heerak Christian Kim for Congress YouTube. Just Google that and you'll get into my YouTube channel and you can watch yesterday's episode. And Pakistan used to be number 2, but now it dropped down to number 5. So, and Pakistan is the same, I mean, it diverged. Once, it became more Muslim, they started to do things that are more Muslim, right? Like Muslims cannot drink alcohol, whereas Hindus can drink alcohol. That's a big difference, right? Muslims eat halal food, Hindus do not. And in India, there's a large secular population. It's meat, and even pork. This Congress, one of the Gandhi married Italian. Yeah, so Pakistan has 319,317 cases, and you have 6,580 deaths, 2% death rate. So, so you can be the same race, like India is Hindu mostly and Pakistan is Muslim, but based on how you live, and Muslims are much more conservative in the way they live, right? India is a little bit more liberal, because you have the Congress Party. And they say like doing marijuana, doing dope increases your chance of dying from COVID. That may explain why the death rate is so high in America, because there are more people doing dope than, let's say, in a Muslim country where you would have death penalty if you do dope, like marijuana, like recreational marijuana puts you at risk for increased COVID death, according to some evidence-based research. Obviously, they're doing more and more research, so we're going to learn more during this flu season. And they could do more in-depth study about whether marijuana kills more people or not, right? Because we're going to have like millions of Americans dying potentially in the flu season, which is 6 months long. So we can learn far more about COVID-19 during this time period. Um, yeah, uh, interesting developments are happening in America, especially in the Jewish community. And until President Trump became president, Jewish community was mostly unified, with most Jews voting, block voting Democrat. So you had Orthodox Jews, but they still ran as Democrats. And you have Joe Lieberman of Connecticut, who was Orthodox Jew, but he was part of the Democratic Party. He was a Democratic senator from Connecticut for a long time. So the whole Jewish community was fairly united before President Trump. Ironically, after President Trump, Jewish community started to fracture. And it's ironic because President Trump's daughter, Ivanka Trump, converted to Judaism to marry Jared Kushner, who's an Orthodox Jew. And Jared Kushner's whole family is Orthodox Jew. Um, and now they are in the White House as advisors for President Trump. And perhaps because of that, Orthodox Jewish community tied to the Kushner family started to migrate toward the Republican Party. And this migration did not really exist before President Trump. Democrats, they were all Democrats. The whole Jewish community basically voted as Democrats, including Orthodox. But President Trump marked a turning point in US history in many ways. Number one, President Trump got the working class vote of a lot of Democrats and Republicans. So Democrats jumped over workers, like union members, labor union members, jumped over to vote for President Trump in 2016. And we didn't really see that until President Trump. The last time we saw something like that was during Ronald Reagan. So since Ronald Reagan, um, President Trump is like Ronald Reagan 2.0 enhanced. Because Ronald Reagan was liked by everybody. He was personally likable. Nobody criticized him really. President Trump is like hated by everybody, a lot of people. But there are people who hate him, who vote for him because they respect, they feel like President Trump respects their views, whether it's the card-carrying white supremacists, like KKK, Aryan Nation, or white Americans who may not be card-carrying Aryan Nation or KKK members, who feel that, white privilege is a good thing. They want to protect white privilege. And you don't have to be a racist to want to protect white privilege, although some people will say that itself is racist. I don't think so, because everybody wants privilege, right? Whether you're Black, Hispanic, Asian, or white, you want privilege. Just that, everybody's in competition for limited resources. And we see that from market economics. So I don't think it's racist to want privilege economically so you could be rich and so that your children can be rich. I think it's just a natural human thing. But some people like to put a spin on everything because they're so into, racism and stuff like that. But everything is not racism, right? World is not that simple. I don't believe the liberal media that tries to reduce things to like first grade level. World is far more complex than how the liberal media portrays it. So white people who want white privilege to maintain their wealth, they don't have to be racist. They may be like one of the biggest fighters of racism, but they want white privilege because they want to be wealthy. They want to be able to drive a nice car, have a nice house. They want their children to drive a nice car and have a nice house. And it's not racism. It's just, you could call it materialism, or you could call it capitalism, but it's not really racism just because you want certain advantages or white privilege in order to maintain your social or economic dominance. It has nothing to do with racism, but some people like to link it together, and I think it hurts the cause of anybody who wants to pull their race up. Because once you start lumping things together, then you're going to make more enemies because you're making it us versus them. So more and more white people who might have been open to issues that involve Black people or Hispanic people, once you start using the terms like racism, you're going to alienate these white people who will jump ship to vote against you. And so you're going to have that phenomenon when you start lumping everything and calling it racism or anti-Semitism, whatever the term may be, you're going to have a lot of people just jumping ship and voting against you because, not everything can be reduced to, like racism, anti-Semitism. It's not that simple. Life is never that simple. People have, several different motives that can be working at the same time. And selfishness can work. Desire for wealth, materialism can work. Maybe they like capitalism more than socialism. That could be a factor. So it's not just racism why people want to maintain the white privilege. And I'm not white, as you can see, I'm Asian, from South Korea, an immigrant from South Korea. My father immigrated when he was called to be a senior pastor at First Korean Presbyterian Church in Philadelphia. So I came over, when he brought the family over to the U.S. as immigrants. And I think like the Black Lives Matter, they have some complex leaders, but so far it's been a little bit too simplistic in its approach, I think. And that exists in the Jewish community too. Like people just trying to like box you into the title of racist or anti-Semite. And that's never healthy because people are not that simple. People have different motives, And even people who are not racist, if you call them racist, they'll just like, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. They act like racist just to spite you because you call them a racist. It's like that with anti-Semites too. If you call somebody anti-Semite, they may not be anti-Semite, but it may become a self-fulfilling prophecy because they will go out of their way to act like an anti-Semite just to spite you, And people are like that. It's kind of like saying, you tell your cousin, oh, you're such a, you are so hard to talk to, and your cousin may start acting, go out of the way to be more difficult with you, like just because you said that, whenever you criticize people, you are inviting an attack from them. Because human relationship is about give and take. It's like I scratch your back, you scratch my back. It's like, can I get a 5 if I give you a 5? Can I get a 5 back? So it's pro quid quo, Human relationships are all about pro quid quo. It's like, I'm going to do you a favor and you owe me one. It's just the way people talk. This is the way people operate. And it goes back to like barter trading. I'll give you this. I'll give you a magnifying glass for your flashlight, And some people may say, well, that's not an equal trade. I'll give you my magnifying glass. You give me a flashlight and a pen, you see. So, and some favors are bigger than others, So people say, hey, I did you a favor, you owe me big, so let me date your sister, people do that. Like, I like, help you get an A on your math test. Now, you owe me big. You gotta like talk to your sister to going out on a date with me, So whole society runs on barter trade at a certain level, or pro quid quo, or I scratch your back and you scratch my back. So when you criticize somebody, you're inviting them to criticize you. It's like, that's just the way that the world operates, that's how everybody is. And, that's how everybody acts, when the Pharisees, the Orthodox Jews in Jesus' time attacked Jesus attacked them back. Jesus called Orthodox Jews in his time like brood of vipers. He cursed at them. So Jesus did not take things lying down, right? When the Pharisees attacked him, Jesus attacked them. It's like, that's how people are, and Jesus is fully God but fully human. So Jesus operated within that framework. So whenever you criticize someone, you're going to be criticized, and Hindus have a saying, and that's called karma. If you send bad karma is going to come back to you. If you send good karma is going to come back to you. So That's why, anybody who criticizes somebody, it's never a good thing for them on a personal level or professional level. Because like if you do somebody wrong in a company, that person is going to be like remembering it. And when you need something, that person is going to sabotage it. Like if you need a promotion, you need like, you need something, that person is going to go out of his way or her way to make sure you don't get it. And that, it's called company politics. Everybody's working, understands how that works. You just don't criticize somebody unless you're willing to suffer for it. And that happens on all levels, right? So it could happen horizontally, like among co-workers who are at the same pay grade. It could happen between a boss and workers. For example, if you're a nurse manager, and you mistreat, let's say, three nurses, um, then they may all like got together and call in sick at the same time. And like you're in trouble because you need the nurses there and they all called in sick a few hours before, and you're like scrounging for nurses. And if you have to get help from like, um, nursing supervisor or other departments, you can get a reputation, for not being able to run your unit efficiently. So, and that could end up with consequences down the road. So, so even if you're superior and you have power over your workers, uh, there are problems that you could run into if you go out of your way to do something bad, or, you know, so that's why Jesus said, get along with everybody, uh, you know, and do good to others. And these are good advice by Jesus, because anybody who's worked in a corporate setting knows, like, if you mistreat somebody, whether it's a horizontal, the same level, pay grade workers, or even your underling, you're gonna get nothing done. You could suffer for it. If you're a manager in a company and your workers, like, because you mistreated them, they don't give you the best work. Um, I mean, at the end of the day, or they call in sick all the time, then at the end of the day, your job could become jeopardized, because everybody's checked at every level, you know. And so one of the things about company or corporate structure is you gotta find a way to make sure it runs smoothly. And part of that is learning to treat everybody nicely. So being nice, I mean, when you meet like CEOs, generally they're really nice people. Because it's hard to get to that level if you're not nice, you know? Because people are always trying to like destroy each other in the corporate setting. Everybody has enemies. There is nobody without an enemy. Everybody has enemies. Some people become your enemies because they're jealous of you. Some people are enemies because they think you're prettier than them. Some people are your enemies because they think you're wealthier than them. People become enemies for whatever reason, even though you may not treat them badly. So at the end of the day, you need like a cushion to protect you, right? If you like, buffer states, buffer individuals, because everybody has enemies and everybody's out to like, cut people down whenever they have the chance. So the more buffer individuals you have, more safe you are. Whether it's in the job, but wherever you are. Whether you're in college. Um, and so it's kind of interesting how that works, right? Now, the Jewish community was unified because they had a common interest before, right? So majority of the Jews, if not all of the Jews, wanted to make sure that Jewish communities in America receive a Jewish privilege. I mean, I'm just putting a label on it, like white privilege, Jewish privilege. Every community wants privilege, because privilege gets you rich. Privilege gets you status, power, right, and wealth. So, every community wants their community to have the privilege, right? It's just right now, white community has the privilege, but it could change, and Hispanic community may have the privilege in 20 years. We don't know. Um, Anything can happen, right? Power shifts, wealth shifts. It doesn't stay the same. Everybody's competing against each other, and whoever can get an advantage will have the greater privilege. So in the past, the Jewish community was united to ensure that there is a type of Jewish privilege that ensures Jewish social, economic uh, progress in America for Jews who are part of the Jewish community. And every community strives for that, obviously, but and they've kind of decided to become Democrats, and so they've been kind of working within that structure. But when President Trump became president, and his daughter is a convert to Judaism, who's married to Orthodox Jew, that structure kind of broke apart, in a major way. I mean, there were Republicans who were Jews before, but they were kind of the exception that proved the rule. But now it's the President Trump has put a lot of people in who are close to Jared Kushner, because you hire people right? And so there are a lot of Jews, Orthodox Jews, who are kind of playing a more major role since Jared Kushner became an advisor at the White House. And presidents listen to their advisors, right? So a lot of the Jews who were Democrats are now Republicans because of this new social reality, right? Power, money, influence shifts your political loyalties and political identities, right? It's like nothing is always static, right? It moves. Everything, all the pieces are moving pieces every second, every day. Things could change. Even at Virginia Hospital Center where I work, things can change from minute to minute in certain settings, So you can't say like, oh, this is this. That may not be true 10 minutes later, And so it's like that with everything in life, right? And no one is secure. Everybody's vulnerable. Everybody can get fired, right? Even President Trump can get fired. If he doesn't get elected on November 3rd, 2020, President Trump is fired, right? That's how you fire President Trump. In which case, Jared Kushner no longer has a White House advisor job. Ivanka Trump doesn't. They become unemployed. And, either they'll have to work for the Kushner family or Trump dynasty, right? I mean, I guess they could try to get hired somewhere else, but it's like they own their family real estate businesses, and the family kind of works within the real estate businesses, right? The Trumps and the Kushners. And a lot of families are like that. If your family owns a Pizza Hut, everybody's going to contribute and work in Pizza Hut, And maybe your father, who's the owner of the Pizza Hut, wants you to open up different Pizza Huts in different parts of Virginia or DC or Maryland, right? It's like same with car dealerships. Don Beyer, my opponent in U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District, is the owner of Volvo, right? Don Beyer Volvo. And he may have relatives who work at his Don Beyer Volvo as managers, right? He may have people who are working his Don Beyer Volvo as salesmen, auto mechanics, And then, he may have his children open up a Volvo somewhere else. And if it's his daughter, it'll be her husband's name, maybe, So it could be like John Smith Auto, Volvo, but it's still like Tom Beyer helped set it up because it's his daughter. He's married to a guy named John Smith, whose name goes on the Volvo dealership. But it's like family business. It expands that way. You see how that works? Generally, when a guy marries into a wealthy family, he generally helps the wife's family's business expand. That's always the case. There was I guess Walmart billionaire heiress went to Georgetown, if I remember the story correctly. And a Georgetown student married this Walmart heiress. And then I think it was Walmart. And then he started, he's very smart. He started working for his wife's father's business, and, he helped the business, And so from what I understand, the wife's father liked him because he's smart and he could help the business expand, And that helped with Kraft, the owner of NFL football. he wasn't from a wealthy family, but his wife is. So when he married into her family, which is very wealthy, Robert Kraft, I guess it's Robert is his first name, owner of Patriots football team in Massachusetts. He started to work for his wife's father's business, home business. It was a multi-million-dollar business, but he expanded further to make it multi-billion-dollar business. And that's what happens in marriage, right? If you're a millionaire and you have a daughter, you want her to marry either another millionaire or another billionaire, or you want her to marry somebody smart who can join your company and expand it. That's been the way since beginning of time, right? And obviously, a daughter, an heiress of a wealthy family, if she's smart, during 4 years of college, she'll nab a guy who's either a billionaire or a millionaire, or somebody who's smart who can help her father expand, right? That's like a smart woman. Obviously, you gotta marry the one you love, but there are a lot of nice guys who are billionaires. Um, or not nice guys who are smart, who can expand your father's business. So, smart woman helps to expand the empire of her father. That's how it works. And you could say, Ivanka Trump could fit that bill, except I think she didn't really have an understanding of religions. And as you know, there's a lot of anti-Semitism in the world, and majority of Americans are anti-Semitic. So, but she went to University of Pennsylvania, which is called the Jewish Ivy League. There's like 50% of the school is Jewish. So, being in that little bubble of University of Pennsylvania, you're not gonna really understand how majority of Americans live, like in Mississippi, Louisiana, California, Illinois. You just don't know. Um, and most of America's Jews are in the East Coast, focused in like New York, Philadelphia. That's like Philadelphia to New York is where all the Jews are focused. And Ivanka Trump grew up in New York and went to school at University of Pennsylvania. So I mean, she's not going to really know outside of her bubble how normal Americans think about Jews. She's just not going to know. Um, if Jared Kushner were Christian, he probably would be, his family is Christian. He's probably like the perfect guy, right? But there is anti-Semitism, and it's been existing for 2,000 years in the Western civilization. So, that is something you cannot ignore, right? Because that's part of history, and history repeats itself, right? So, but if you're not a historian, and if you're in your little bubble, you're not going to always understand what goes on outside of that bubble. But anyway, yeah, we have two articles from today and yesterday, and this is the most recent development now that's related to Trump campaign and election, and it's happening in Jewish community. There's a fissure in the Jewish community that obviously President Trump did not want to create a division. Ivanka Trump is not trying to create a division in Jewish community. Jared Kushner is not trying to divide the Jewish community. But what they say, united we stand, divided we fall. I mean, and sometimes you get divided not because you want to be divided, but divisions happen for a reason. And as you know, I'm an expert of Jewish history. I studied the divisions in the Second Temple period, at the time of Hanukkah, the first Hanukkah. I studied the divisions at the time. And, I talked about it in my other shows, so you can watch reruns on my YouTube channel, Heerak Christian Kim for Congress. And I'll continue to talk about issues like that since I'm an expert of Jewish history. And I'm sure you have interest in that. Since President Trump's son-in-law is Jewish and his daughter converted to Judaism, you may be interested in learning more about Judaism, whereas you might not have cared at all before. So I'll continue to talk a little bit about that, just to get you informed and updated on current research of Jewish studies and how to understand what's going on, because obviously there are 6 million Jews in America, which is like 2%, so they're not significant in terms of number. But in terms of education, they're very highly educated as an ethnic group. I mean, Koreans, I think, are more educated, but, as an ethnic group, because I think we have close to 100% college graduates. And I mean, Jewish, I think we may be similar, but anyway, so, I'll talk more about, I'll probably talk about Koreans as well, since I'm Korean. I know my community. But today, we're talking about the Jewish community. Um, Listening to Indian music because India is number one in Asia for COVID-19. There are a lot of Indians, and Indian Americans are very educated as well. Although there's a caste system, so if you're in the lower caste, education may not be as a priority as upper caste. Like Brahmins, which are like the priestly class. But we'll talk about it some other time. I have a doctorate on religion, so I've done some advanced research on Hinduism, so I can talk about that. Um, yeah, so the title for today is COVID-19 America, are Jews in USA divided over COVID-19 or President Trump, right? I mean, it's hard to separate the two because President Trump has made it an issue for him. So, I don't think they have to be tied, but President Trump chose to tie it. And it may be because of his advisor, maybe Heerak Christian, who knows? It may be another advisor, maybe it's himself. It's hard to tell, right? When you have advisors but anyway, the quote is, Orthodox Jews rally outside journalist home in New York City after anti-lockdown leader Heshi Tishner is arrested over assault, in quotation mark, on the reporter. City fines 5 synagogues $15,000 for COVID violations. So things are heating up. So this article is by Leah Simpson and Jennifer Smith in Daily Mail, which is a British newspaper, on October 12, 2020. So the whole world is kind of watching this with fascination. There are a lot of Jews in England as well. Solomon Schlechter was at Cambridge University as a leading expert of Jews around the world. And he immigrated to the United States and founded the Jewish Theological Seminary, which is on the campus of Columbia University area. And that produces conservative Jewish rabbis. It's been doing that for a long time. And so, Solomon Schlechter was part of the English Jewish community before he came over to America. And there's an active Jewish community throughout England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And Jews in England lived even through the time of Shakespeare. Remember The Merchant of Venice, Shylock the Jew? So you get a picture of what Jews were in Shakespeare's time, or some Jews were in Shakespeare's time, like Shylock the Jew. If you want to watch a good play rendition of The Merchant of Venice by Shakespeare, download the video with Al Pacino. He's amazingly good in the video in The Merchant of Venice. Yeah, watch that. If you have never seen The Merchant of Venice either in a playhouse, when I was in England, I used to go see Shakespeare plays in London whenever I can. Whenever I could, I went. Took a 1-hour train from Cambridge to. I was in Cambridge for 5 years in the United Kingdom, and I love Shakespeare. Watch a video rendition of The Merchant of Venice by Shakespeare. So you can kind of get a picture of the perception about Jews during the time of Shakespeare and compare it with the kind of perception of Jews that exists in America, or maybe the perception of Jews that you yourself has as an individual. After all, everybody's a product of their culture, their history, so you cannot separate the two. And that's what postmodernists have told us. And I think they're accurate on many levels, like Derrida, Foucault. They're a little bit dated now, meaning they're a little bit out of date in terms of scholarship, but some of the principles they have laid out function within application settings, like social emotional learning presumes impact of your personal experience, cultural setting, social environment, and geographical location. And the postmodernists gave us this focus on how an individual is made as a product of his or her setting and experience and personal history and communal history. So it's an important thing. So you cannot separate people from their communities, right? And that's one of the principles of multiculturalism. that cannot be ignored. As you know, I'm a member of the board member of the Standing Committee of Global Citizenship for National Council of Teachers of English, which is representing all the English teachers from pre-kindergarten to university professors in America and all 50 states and U.S. territories and U.S. military bases around the world. Um, yeah, and multiculturalism understanding is different now than it was during baby boomers generation when they were in college. Everything has changed. So you got to keep up with evidence-based research because research changes every year. And consensus shifts. Nothing ever stays the same. Just like COVID-19 doesn't stay the same. It's constantly mutating. It's a living organism. To assume that COVID-19 in March is the same as COVID-19 now is being an idiot. Like you have to be an idiot to assume it's the same virus now. Like it does the same exact thing in March 2020 as in October 2020. No, it's much more deadly. Now it infects 20-year-olds and kills them. It infects babies and kills them. And that really did not happen like in March 2020 in any significant way. It was an exception to the rule at that time. Now it's going to be more normal. So when people are like, oh, COVID-19 doesn't infect babies. Hey, which month are you living in? Are you living in like March 2020 or October 2020? Come on, get with the program. It's like, your grandpa talking about his favorite music from what 1960s or whatever, 1970s, and you're like, huh? I've never heard of that group. You know how that is. Yeah. When Eddie Van Halen passed away, some of the top singers who are like on the top five, never heard of them. And they're like top singers who are in top five. Like Billie Eilish, she said she didn't know who Eddie Van Halen was. So you don't have to be a great singer like Billie Eilish. I'd love to meet her someday. Maybe I will. But you don't have to be knowledge about history to make history. You see what I'm saying? I mean, history exists, but you don't have to know what happened 20 years ago in order to make history now, right? You don't have to know history to make history. And so Billie Eilish is making history in the music world as an is she like 18-year-old? She's very talented, but she doesn't know someone who made history in the music world like Eddie Van Halen. Everybody knew Eddie Van Halen when, in the last, in the generation that he performed, right? Everybody knew Michael Air Jordan. Now, people don't know him. Like the little kids, they don't know Michael Jordan. You know, you know, so people get forgotten in 35 years. It doesn't matter how famous you were, you get forgotten. So human beings work hard to try to be remembered, right? You have to be either like really, really evil or really, really good to get remembered. Um, yeah, it's hard to be remembered beyond 30 years. A generation is 35 years. Um, yeah, Air Jordan. I mean, everybody thought he was immortal, but nobody remembers him now among the new generation. Nobody knows him. Yeah, so this article by Leah Simpson and Jennifer Lee. Yeah, the quote is Orthodox Jews rallied outside a journalist's home in New York last night. That's yesterday night, Sunday night. Or was it? I guess it might have been Saturday night. After a Jewish anti-lockdown leader was arrested over an attack on the reporter who claimed to have been labeled a Nazi and snitched over his reporting of the COVID-19 crisis in the community. COVID-19 is getting Jews to call each other Nazis. Supporters of Heshi Tishler chanted, "No Heshi, no peace. No Heshi, no peace. No Heshi, no peace. No Heshi, no peace." I mean, kind of goes. No Heshi, no peace. No Heshi, no peace. Can I get a fiver? No Heshi, no peace. No Heshi, no peace. Yeah, I mean, seems like a nice guy. He's in the center there, city council debate. He's apparently running for New York City Council. And they have a debate. And it's New York City's 44th district. This debate is scheduled for what, October 29th? Yeah. So no Heshi, no peace, no Heshi, no peace. As they gathered outside the home of James Scott Cornbush, a Jewish insider reporter. Jewish Insider is a newspaper um, who was allegedly chased, assaulted, and screamed at by a crowd incited by Kushner last week. So I mean, no press is dead press, right? I mean, this guy's running for city council. I mean, I've never heard of this guy before. Heshi Tishler? Now everybody in the world has heard of Heshi Tishler. He could probably run for U.S. Congress or U.S. Senate. There are a lot of people who are like, COVID deniers. You know how there are Holocaust deniers in the world? They're like over like 1 billion people who deny the Holocaust. I don't know how you could deny the Holocaust. It's a historical fact. But there are like over 1 billion people in the world who like deny the Holocaust. And I guess there are a lot of people who deny the COVID, even though there's death all around us. They're like, I haven't seen it with my own eyes. It doesn't exist. You know, there are always going to be people like that in any tragedy. Um, you know, so yeah. So Cornbush has been among Jewish reporters and photographers who have been reporting on their ongoing unrest in the Orthodox community, where many are refusing to adhere to social distancing laws or wear masks. What the hey? What the hey? Wear a mask, dude. I mean, geez, there is nothing in Orthodox Judaism that says you should not wear a mask. It's ridiculous not wearing a mask. What's the point? I mean, geez. I mean, God created the world. That's what Genesis says. God created the little COVID, right? I mean, it's killing people. I mean, God created lions that kill people, tigers that kill people. I mean, you're going to just walk around when the lion or tiger are near you, or bear. I mean, geez, wear a mask. I mean, why should you not wear a mask? It doesn't make sense. Any religion, there's no religious rule against wearing a mask. I'm an expert of religion. And I could tell you with full confidence, there's no religious recommendation for not wearing a mask in this situation, in any religion. When I was in Israel, I worked with David Safran, who's Israel's leading expert of comparative religions. He's Jewish. Yeah, he's professor. He was, I guess, an associate professor, no, assistant professor when I was in Israel, but now he's like, he man, he the man, he the man. Yeah, he was a visiting professor at Princeton University, and Martha Himmelfarb was there when he went. Martha Himmelfarb got her PhD at University of Pennsylvania under Robert Kraft. Uh, not the football player, not the football NFL owner, Robert Kraft, but expert of Jewish scholarship, Robert Kraft, who went to Wheaton College in Illinois. He was an evangelical Christian, but after his PhD from Harvard, he lost his Christian faith. So, but anyway, he wanted me to do my PhD with him at the University of Pennsylvania in Jewish history. But I'm like, hey, how much money are you going to give me? No. I mean, he offered to give me money and teaching at the University of Pennsylvania, but I'm like, I did like 3 years of my undergraduate education. I graduated 1 year early. I did 3 years of my undergraduate at UPenn. You want me to go back for like a doctorate? Come on, I mean, I have the whole world to discover, But he did offer me a lot of money. He really wanted me, Everybody wants me, what can I say? I'm brilliant in Jewish studies, so any expert, he's one of the top experts. Any expert who's brilliant is going to see that. Um, second, second article is Heshi Tishler arrested in connection to Borough Park journalist assault. I think he got this idea from me. You see him wearing Trump. I think he saw my show and he's copying. Hey, the fad is taking off. Because, I've been wearing this for months. Not every day, but, once in a while I wear this. I started the trend, right? As far as I know. I don't know anyone else who wear, decal, car decal on the shirt. But Heshi does. Heshi, give me 5. Heshi. Heshi. I like that name, Heshi. Israelis have really nice names. Like Zachary is Zaki, or Itzhak is Zaki, Zaki, Heshi, like Itzhak Rabin. I remember when Itzhak Rabin died in Israel, and he's a good guy. I really like Itzhak. But yeah, he died. Yeah, that was a tragic moment in history. I remember all the sadness of the beautiful Jewish women that were lined up, to pay him respect. It's a man, they were pretty, but they look really sad. You know, it's sad. But some women look prettier when they're sad. But obviously you always want women to smile. But some women have that different like beauty. I mentioned the beauty when they're sad, which is kind of interesting. I kind of realized that on that day. But anyway, yeah, going back to Heshi Tisler arrested in connection to Borough Park journalist assault. Article by Larry Kelowna, Elizabeth Rosner, Kenneth Garger in New York Post. New York Post has been coming up with really good articles on COVID-19. I mean, it's kind of surprising because they weren't really that big on delivering news. No offense, because um, yeah, one of the guys who wanted to volunteer was, I think, son of an editor at New York Post or owner of New York Post that I met at a big Republican thing in DC, and he wanted to help me out with my campaign. This was like in October, I guess, or November. But anyway, yeah. So I don't want to insult your post. He may be watching. He's doing his master's at George Washington University. I guess in politics. Yeah. Anyway, City Council candidate Heshi Tischler was arrested Sunday night in connection to assault of an Orthodox journalist in Borough Park last week. Police said, so it's like Orthodox and Orthodox violence. As I said, all the Jews are mostly Democrats. Like practically all the Jews are Democrats, including Orthodox Jews. So now some Orthodox Jews have jumped ship to support President Trump, and Heshi is one of these aggressively supporting Trump individuals. So now you have division within the Orthodox Jewish community that didn't really exist before, at least over US politics. Yeah, so ironically, President Trump may be like the Pandora's box for the Jewish community in America. Isn't that ironic? All the things that Ivanka Trump, the convert to Judaism, President Trump's daughter who married Heerak Christian, whose whole family is Jewish, Orthodox Jewish, all the things they're doing to help the Jewish community may be what's destroying the Jewish community. Isn't that ironic? Life is like that. Sometimes you do things to help, and your efforts to help can destroy what you're trying to protect. I see that in history. It happens a lot in history. And that's why in America we have the saying, road to hell is paved with good intentions. It's kind of like, let's say I like the girl and I wanted to marry her. And her father is like, man, he's too old for you. I mean, I'm not that old, but, my dating range is 18 to 26. So her father may be like, man, he's not 18 to 26. He's just a little bit older than that, just a little bit. So her father would be like, I'm doing her a favor, the girl. So I'm just gonna like get her not to marry him, he may end up destroying her life. You know what I'm saying? I mean, these things do happen because I have a lot of women pining over me throughout the world. Yeah, I should have married one of them, because I know a lot of beautiful and amazing women. But who knows? I mean, I'm sure there are amazing and beautiful women that I'll meet in the future as well. I mean, the world is filled with amazing and beautiful women, and there are women who are hitting 18 every year. So you have I don't want to say recruits, but you people who enter that, now they're eligible to marry Heerak Christian Kim, 18 to 24, 26. And if you're like, yeah, Taylor Swift, I mean, I make a little bit higher, yeah. But hi Taylor Swift, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so where was I? I guess I'll read from Tischler, who is also Orthodox. Yeah, that's where we are. Tischler, who Is also Orthodox, was taken into custody at his house in Borough Park and charged with unlawful imprisonment. It's like false imprisonment is another term. Like, whenever you kind of block somebody into a corner, it's considered false imprisonment. It's illegal. Don't do it. Like, don't ever stand in a way that you're blocking somebody into a corner, because that's called false imprisonment or unlawful imprisonment. That's illegal. Yeah. So just for your information, so you don't get arrested. And inciting a riot, according to police. Yeah. So your politics is getting kind of interesting, I guess, is the right word maybe for this situation. But we're still like 20 days, more than 20 days off until election. So you can like imagine things are going to get much more interesting. Interesting, you know? Yeah. Um, Harry the Owl's like, it is interesting. You see that? In his face, that look? It is interesting look. Yeah. Um, yeah, so, I hope that, you vote. And if you're in Virginia's 8th district, vote for Heerak. As you know, I'm running for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th district. But you have to write my name in for now, because I've sued Virginia Governor Northam and Virginia Department of Election to get my name on the ballot. But because of COVID-19, it's kind of slowed. The process is slowed. I filed a lawsuit on June 3rd. This process is slowed. So because all the judges are working from home. So just write my name in Heerak Christian Kim for Virginia 8th District against Tom Bayer, the Volvo owner. Who's the current U.S. Congressman. And if you have time, tune in for city council debate with Heshi. Heshi, give me 5, Heshi, Heshi. He seems like a nice guy, I don't know. I haven't met him or anything, but, or have I? Maybe I met him. Because I was a CPAC. Maybe he was a CPAC. I don't know. I mean, I met a lot of people at CPAC 2020. Yeah. And I've shared my photos from there. So I don't know. Maybe I met him. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoy this episode of COVID-19 update, and I hope you learned something new. I'm sure you did, because I'm an expert. I'm a Leonardo da Vinci. I could always give you something you don't know. Yeah, it's a daily show, so tune in tomorrow, and you will learn something new again. I mean, this is probably the most important show, most interesting show you've seen in your life. I understand that. I'm a very interesting person. Yeah. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I hope that you and your family will be well. Bye.